Ozzy Osbourne may have been one of the oddest rock legends in history, but he was also one of the most unique and impactful. Some say he was cursed. Others say he was a walking miracle. But one thing is certain. Ozzy Osbourne's life reads like a horror film written by a headbanging trickster god. From biting bats to being studied by scientists for his mutant DNA, this isn't your average rock star story. Here are the reasons there will never be another Ozzy Osbourne. Let's dive in. Ozzy and animals. In Des Moines in 1982, a fan threw what looked like a rubber bat onto the stage. Ozzy, in full manic glory, bit its head off, only to realize it was real. He had to get emergency rabies shots. But it wasn't always an accident when Ozzy did things like this. A year earlier, at a record executive meeting with CBS to celebrate his album Blizzard of Oz, Ozzy pulled 2 live doves out of his coat top and bit the heads off one, and then the other. No stage. No audience. Just horrified label reps and feathers everywhere. They kicked him out and banned him from the premises. Ozzy would later say, "I just got carried away. I was out of my mind. I thought it would be funny." And then also, in 1984, there was the shark incident. At a Florida hotel, he and his bandmates allegedly dismembered a dead shark in their room, painted parts of the wall with shark's blood, and dumped the remains in the hallway. This and a story about Ozzy snorting a line of ants off the ground were both stories told by members of the band Mötley Crüe, but have never been confirmed by Ozzy himself and his wife. Sharon denies any of it happened, but it is a pretty wild story about Ozzy, so I thought I should include it. Depending on who was telling the story, it sometimes was supposedly even crazier. They had said it was a gross-out contest between them and Ozzy. The unstoppable Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy overdosed multiple times. Ozzy once said, "I overdosed on drugs many times. If I was a cat, I'd have 33 lives." And although there's no way of knowing if that number is accurate, Ozzy didn't seem to think it couldn't be. He crashed an ATV in 2003 at his estate in Buckinghamshire, England, and reportedly had to be brought back with CPR because the vehicle flipped and landed on top of him. The crash caused multiple life-threatening injuries, including 8 fractured ribs, a broken collarbone, a cracked vertebra in his neck, a partially collapsed lung, and a damaged artery that caused internal bleeding. Ozzy's bodyguard, Sam Rustin, found him unconscious and turning blue and performed CPR on him before paramedics even arrived. Ozzy later said in an interview, "I died twice on the way to the hospital. I was gone. If Sam hadn't been there, I wouldn't be here." He added that he had no memory of the crash itself, saying, "I don't remember anything about the day. I just remember waking up in hospital a couple of days later and Sharon telling me I nearly died." Ozzy had a habit of forgetting. He claimed he didn't remember any of the 90s and elaborated in one interview saying, "There's a period of time I call the blackout years. I was on so many drugs and drinking so much that I was just gone. I don't remember making some of those albums. I don't remember tours. Nothing." Even so, the 90s were an extremely active and successful decade for Ozzy. Nothing ever seemed to keep him down. Ozzy's DNA. Geneticists Cofactor Genomics and Gnome Inc. actually sequenced his DNA, revealing many previously unseen variants, bringing them to the conclusion that Ozzy is a genetic mutant. That's a direct quote from Gnome Inc. in 2010. He was one of the first public figures ever to do this. He was curious about why he survived decades of substance abuse that should have killed him. They meant it as a compliment. Explaining the results of those tests would be an entire video in itself, but they were interesting and worth looking into if you're curious. Ozzy at his worst. And then there's the infamous Sharon incident in 1989. Ozzy, in a blackout, tried to strangle his wife. He later said, "It wasn't me. I don't know who that person was." He also said he didn't remember doing it. He was initially charged with attempted murder, but his loving wife, Sharon, refused to press charges. He went to rehab after that for 6 months, but the darkness never really fully left him. It was part of who he was, Ozzy's music. The name Black Sabbath was inspired by a horror movie starring Boris Karloff and by a shadowy figure that appeared at the foot of bassist Geezer Butler's bed after dabbling in the occult. Before that, the band was named Earth, and they were more like psychedelic rock, but they kept getting confused for another band with that same name, so they changed the name. Mr. Crowley is a tribute to Aleister Crowley, one of the most infamous occultists in history. I plan on doing a deep dive video about him in the future. NIB is a love song from Lucifer's perspective. Suicide Solution sounds like a death wish, but it's actually a warning against alcoholism, where alcohol is the solution that's slowly killing you. Written after AC/DC's Bon Scott died from alcohol poisoning in 1980. Ozzy once said, "I don't write songs. They come through me. I'm just the antenna." He dreamed lyrics, woke up, and sang them into a recorder, as if something else was working through him. But it was actually Geezer Butler who wrote most of their songs. Cursed Ozzy. Some fans believed Ozzy was literally cursed, or maybe he made a deal with something dark in exchange for longevity. He joked about it often, but his crazy life makes you wonder. There was Randy Rhoads' freak plane crash. While the band was on tour for Diary of a Madman, they stopped to fix a faulty air conditioning unit on their tour bus. The driver, Andrew Aycock, who had a pilot's license, but not in good standing, found a small Beechcraft Bonanza F-35 plane at the property they were visiting. Aycock took Randy and Rachel Youngblood, their seamstress, up for a joyride without proper permission. He buzzed the tour bus multiple times, allegedly trying to wake the sleeping bandmates inside, including Ozzy and Sharon. On the final pass, the plane's wing clipped the tour bus, crashed into a tree, and slammed into a garage, bursting into flames. There were no survivors. In the aftermath, Ozzy was devastated, calling it one of the most traumatic moments of his life. He said, "I kept thinking, why him? Why not me?" Randy's death ended what many believed would be a revolutionary career in guitar. He had already redefined metal guitar with his neoclassical style, despite having released only 2 studio albums with Ozzy, and he is widely considered one of the greatest guitarists of all time. There were multiple house fires at his Buckinghamshire home alone, one where Sharon barely escaped and suffered smoke inhalation. He even once said, "I should have died 1,000 times, but something or someone doesn't want me gone yet." Ozzy also prank called the Vatican, once reportedly recorded in the late 1970s or early 1980s. Ozzy was on barbiturates and completely blackout drunk. He and his friend played a prank by calling a Vatican phone number, with Ozzy pretending to be a bartender, dispensing heavenly wisdom, including saying, "Tell the Pope we ran out of holy water." In the early 1980s, during a severe breakdown, Ozzy tragically shot 17 of his own pet cats with a shotgun. He later described it as the final straw of his addiction, recalling he was found under the piano in a white suit, shotgun in one hand, knife in the other, by his wife Sharon. Ozzy and the Alamo. Ozzy was in San Antonio for a performance during his Diary of a Madman tour. He was extremely intoxicated and wearing Sharon's dress because she had hidden all his clothes to prevent him from going out. He wandered outside and urinated on the cenotaph, a sacred memorial honoring the defenders of the Battle of the Alamo. Not the Alamo Chapel itself, but still hallowed ground in Texas history. Locals saw it as a grave insult to Texan pride and the memory of those who fought for independence. Ozzy was arrested for public intoxication. The city of San Antonio banned him from performing there for 10 years. In 1992, Ozzy formally apologized to the city of San Antonio, making a $10,000 donation to the Daughters of the Republic of Texas for the preservation of the Alamo. The city lifted the ban, and Ozzy was allowed to perform there again. Ozzy later said, "I didn't even know what the Alamo was. I was just drunk and needed a pee. So was Ozzy a prophet, a prisoner of chaos, or something in between? He was a man who cheated death for decades, invoked demons, and had been studied by scientists, all while becoming one of the most iconic rock legends in history. He didn't just flirt with darkness, he invited it in, gave it a drink, and wrote a song about it. And somehow, he's still seen as one of the kindest and most loving guys in rock history. If you liked this journey into madness, make sure to subscribe to the Odd Index for more strange and dark deep dives, and comment with what you'd like the next one to be about. And don't forget to check out our YouTube shorts too.